Okay, it looks like we are broadcasting live, so welcome everyone. This is the live Q&A with Sylvia Day. This is the first in a series of fan chats that she's going to do. So she's going to do about one a month to connect with you fans, answer your questions. She'll be joining us tonight from about 8 to 9 p.m. I see that a lot of you already submitted questions ahead of time. So we're going to go ahead and pull some of those for Sylvia. You can also submit a question in the chat right to the side of the screen. Or if you can see below here, there is a question button on that side. You can click that question button and submit a question as well. So one of those two ways, and we'll start pulling those questions for Sylvia. So welcome, Sylvia.
Hi, everybody. I'm
And
so glad you guys made it tonight. There's a lot of you here, so that's cool. I'm glad the timing worked out.
yeah, so let's go ahead and get started because I see that you have a lot of fan questions that are already rolling in. So let's go ahead and pull some of these. There you go. Here's the first one.
All right. How much involvement will I have in the TV series? Well, for casting, I'm not going to have any control over that, as in I have no veto power. The producers will be talking to me, of course, about their casting choices, and we'll discuss a bit. I mean, we've already started talking about it. I just had a lunch with them not this past Monday, but the Monday before, I believe it was. And we talked a bit about what we were looking for, and of course, staying true to the books and how we cast as far as ethnicity and other things that qualifiers that you expect to see from what you read in the book. So I mean that part, they're all looking for it, but it's not as if I could come in and say I really don't want this person. They would listen to me and take my advice, but I couldn't completely gainsay them if I don't have the contractual right to gainsay them. So, but as for what I do have control of in the television series, I am an executive consultant, so all of the scripts will be run by me, and I'll be perusing them and going through them and working with the writer on staying true to the storyline as it's represented in the television series. And I think, and most of you will probably agree with me that that's the most important thing that we have to worry about as far as adapting it for television is that the scripts stay true to it because that, of course, is the roadmap and the Bible and the guidelines for the actors to carry the series through. So I'm excited. Which book? Well, right now it's the Crossfire series. That's what we're in development for right now. So we had talked about uh, most likely the entire first series, the first season of the series would be bared to you because there's a lot of ground to cover. And beyond that, we haven't gotten beyond that yet. So you can expect to see, yeah, what you're familiar with for the first however many episodes the studio and network decide will comprise of full series order. Well, where do I get the inspiration? Well, it depends because inspiration comes, differently for each book, and for some of the stories, I can tell you right off the bat, where inspiration came from. For me, like Crossfire series came from when I was writing 7 Years to Sin, and there's some information about that on the frequently asked questions section of my website. But I'll tell you that in writing that story where I had two abuse survivors that were kind of coming together and finding that they had a lot in common, they felt that they'd found their soulmate because they had this joint past and they understood each other in that way. And of course with the Crossfire series, I felt that to really explore that dynamic truthfully, characters would not necessarily be drawn together as much as they would be pushed apart by the different coping mechanisms and such that they would adopt over the course of their life in order to survive a trauma like that. And that's where I came up with the idea to write the Crossfire series. Other books have totally different, genesis for inspiration. My Mark series came when I was in the shower, and I really can't tell you why while I was washing my hair one day. I had this idea of Cain and Abel fighting over, Eve, but I came out of the shower. I was dripping wet. I had shampoo pouring down all over my face and getting into my eyes, and I'm like rubbing my eyes, going, "Oh my God!" But I'm trying to write it down on a piece of paper before I lose it. And then the whole series came from just that one like little kernel of a scene. So it's different with every book. As for what type of books I like to read romance novels. I especially like to read erotic romance novels. And contemporary, historical, paranormal, none of that really matters to me. I just want there to be a really hot guy, massively in love with a very kick-ass girl, and then to find their happily ever after. Ah, well, it's not mentioned because it's unique to them. It's an island. Of course, where Gideon has his resort, so it would be very hard to pinpoint on the map because the map is right up here in my head. No, I don't know at this time which network will pick up the Crossfire series. In the discussions that I recently had with the producers, we were talking mostly about where the series is going over the next two books, and as I was saying, we talked about casting and where we're going as far as scripts and writing. So that's the only information that I have at this time. But as soon as I know and we're allowed to announce it, then I'll be happy to. When I think they'll start filming, it will be sometime this year, but I really can't say when. Favorite part of the story. Actually, I think probably the most memorable part of the Crossfire series so far was when Ava wrote the Dear John letter to Gideon because they'd been apart for a while, and she wasn't getting a good explanation from him. That was being reflected in you. That broke my heart writing that scene. I cried so much while I was writing it, and I still cry when I read it. And so out of the whole series thus far, I think that's the scene that's stuck with me the most. Well, I'm still working on I mean, really, all of my books have the theme of surviving. All of my characters are survivors in some way or another. That's of course especially true of Gideon and Ava. Moving forward, though, they're moving into needing to forgive each other and to forgive themselves most of all. Both of them carry a lot of guilt and insecurity, and a sense of perhaps deserving the things that have happened to them, which of course is not true. And for them to be able to find, a sense of peace with themselves and then with each other is really where we're going to be, looking forward to in the next two novels. The Blacklist series. Well, I'm not there yet. I'm going to get through the Crossfire series before I move on to Blacklist. So that's the project that comes after the project that I'm working on now. But we'll be following a young couple over the course of a few years. When you read a reunion story, you kind of pick up with characters when they come back together, and you kind of hear about their past and their initial relationship, kind of in a flashback or in discussions that they have with each other, dialogue that they have with each other. In this case, we're going to follow this couple from the first time they meet to their second chance. So it's kind of the spectrum of the romance, and I'm really looking forward to it. But we're a little bit of a ways off from that. Um, is a project for the future new books. Yeah, that would be the Blacklist series, which I just talked about. I'm not sure if that answers the question there, but that's uh, that's where I'll be going next after Crossfire. All right. Well, no, Carrie is a secondary character, and the focus is on Gideon and Ava. We do see more of him. He does have, of course, his own storyline that's going on. He's got a lot of issues that he needs to deal with, and Ava will not be happy in her personal life if he's not happy. So, getting Carrie to his resolution is part of Ava's growth, and her relationship with him, which does have some codependency tendencies, is an issue that they both have to address as they move forward in their lives. So we'll definitely see a lot of him. I can't say that it'll be bigger in the next books, but he definitely won't be any less. No, actually, I don't. I don't have a specific actor or actress. The Gideon character is actually based on a real life gentleman that I saw in New York about 4 years ago now, I think it was. I was walking down the streets of Manhattan. I was going from one appointment to another, and this gorgeous man walked out of a business, a building in front of me, and he was dressed in this gorgeous three-piece suit. and he was just stunning. I mean, really, the suit caught my eye because it was just wow. And then I paid attention to the body that was filling it, and the man who was in possession of that body, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, wow. I mean, this guy, he just stopped me in the street. And so he, more than anything else, has been in my head as I've been writing Gideon. But Gideon really took on a life of his own within the first, I'd say the first half of Fear to You. And in my head, he's not like anyone. There's not any particular person upon which he's based or is a true inspiration for him.
So I'm going to jump back on Sylvia because I know that the biggest question tonight that keeps coming up, and instead of just popping up for you, is obviously when is the next Crossfire book going to be
The
released? I
next
know that's
question
the
that
burning question.
yeah, we don't have a release date yet. So, and I know everybody's like, how is that pot? When are you going to announce it? As soon as I have it, I will absolutely shout it from the rooftops. There is absolutely no way that you would not know what the date is because I will tell you that I don't have a date to announce for you right now.
Yes, so there's that answer because I know that might be the number one most popular question that keeps popping up. I also wanted to jump in to let everyone know that there are two ways to submit a question. I know some of you were having a problem submitting it with the button right here. You can go ahead and type it in the chat too, and we'll grab it from there. You can also come up on screen by pushing the camera button. And we'll try to pepper in some of those questions where you can come up here on camera as long as you have a stable internet connection and we can see you okay and you can talk to Sylvia live. So to request that, you push that camera button, which is right here. So Sylvia, I'm going to continue to fire some of these questions to you.
Okay. Expectations. I really, I don't know. I mean, I try not to think about that sort of thing in the process of one writing the book, and then of course when I present the book to you. If I focused on what I imagine a fan reaction would be, or the expectation of a fan reaction would be, it would really be crippling. I would be so focused on what I would imagine was going to happen versus what really does. And most authors will tell you, at least the ones that I've talked to about it, will tell you that it's kind of this odd disconnect, and that the books that we think that are our best works and we love it and the story is fabulous are the ones that readers don't always respond so positively to. And then books that we felt were problematic, or we wish we could have done something different, or looking back in hindsight, something would have worked out better if you had gone another direction with it, are the ones that fans really love. And then you sit there and go, well, who's the best judge of my work? Is it me or is it the reader? And of course, the answer is it's the individual reader. So I try not to think about it. I mean, hopefully everybody, is still following along with Gideon and Ava as they try to work out where Gideon is in his life so that he can be happy, really truly happy. Right now he's got, his jealousy issues and some of his need to control, and a lot of it stems from a very personal concern that he can't keep somebody in his life that loves him, that he's not worthy of it. And him getting to that realization that he is absolutely worthy of being loved by somebody like Ava is where we're going to follow him. Characters based on real people? No, no. I mean, to a certain extent, there's some things like you may see somebody at some point, and they'll have a particular habit. Say the way they twirl a pen in their fingers, or the way they, play with their hair or something. And you may look at that and think, oh, you know what? I will. I can see that, in a character, and you may use a particular trait or saying. Maybe somebody has a funny saying that you've met in your life, and one of your characters will end up having that, but characters are composites of not just the total sum of people that you've met in your entire life, but also people you've never met. Uh, that it's just part of your imagination. So that's there's not really any of my characters that are based on anyone. As for when I hit writer's block, that usually means that I took a detour in the story, and what I mean by that is, for me, writing is a very organic process. I can start a book with an idea of where I'm going to take it, and the characters will go in a completely different direction. And I have learned in the course of the 10-year career that I need to let them write the story the way they want to, and it's my job just to relay it to you as quickly as I can, and to type fast and keep up with them. The times when I hit writer's block are times when I, as the author, intruded in some way, where I tried to force the story to go in a particular direction and it's not where the characters wanted to go. And they just reach a point where they kind of go on strike and sit down and say, that's it, we're not going any further with this story until you back up, and butt out and let us tell the story the way we want to. And so I have to stop and I go back. And as I read through it, I'll start from the beginning and I'll read all the way through and I'll find it. I'll find that point where I went the wrong way, and I'll just have to delete everything I wrote afterwards. I've had some cases where that's been almost an entire book that gets just thrown away because it's just not usable, and then I have to go back and start all over. But that's my discovery of why I get writer's block. I think it's probably different for every writer, though. Hang on, I got to make this question a little bit longer. Okay. Um, Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Henry Cavill is still my top choice, and yes, I have relayed that to the producers. So definitely, I've said that. Scarlett Johansson, yes, absolutely. But I think that there's actually a bit more choice for Ava, at least in my mind, than there is for Gideon. Gideon's going to be a hard role to cast, but there are a few female actress options that I think would do a great job. Although Scarlett would be a personal preference of mine, absolutely. I love the little Henry Cavill. Yes, yes, absolutely. Deaths. So far in the process of writing the last two books, there has not been. I can't say that there won't be because, as I said, the characters write the story as I go, and they surprise me all the time. When Carrie sat down and told Ava that he had gotten Tatiana pregnant at lunch, I was shocked, absolutely shocked. And I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that!" And I'm screaming at my computer, and my husband's in the next room, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, oh my God, you're not going to believe this, but Carrie got this chick pregnant. And he's like, are you the one writing the book or not? And then he laughed at me, but that's, I can say that to a certain extent, I'm the one that's typing the book, but the person writing the book is really the characters. And I had no idea that was going to happen. So, if that's the way the characters take the story, then that's what'll happen, and we may see that. But at this time, there hasn't been, no. Uh, God, yeah, of course there's hope. Gideon's nightmares are actually based on an actual case study, and the couple that experienced that, the atypical sexual parasomnia, went through many years of counseling, but were able to get to the point where they could sleep in the same bed and both of them be safe in doing so. So it's definitely possible. It's been proven to be possible, and of course, Ava's not going to give up until she gets him as healed as she possibly can. You know what? I will go anywhere in the world. Actually, I don't have any place that I won't go to meet with readers and talk about books. So right now, I don't have Turkey on my tour schedule for 2014. That's not to say that I won't end up there. A lot of the times, the publishers will invite me out at the last minute because there's a big book fair or some other special event in the area that they feel would be a great opportunity for fans to come and see me and also participate in a different program. And if that happens, I will absolutely be there. I do the best I can to accommodate requests for me to travel wherever readers and my publishers want me to go. Well, there's benefits to both, really, to being both traditionally published and self-published. And I enjoy doing both. It's called being a hybrid author. For me, there are a great many things that I appreciate when a publisher handles them. You have to be at a certain level in your career for them to do those things. But if you are and your publisher is willing and able and committed to you and they're willing to take some of that burden off of you, it can be a huge relief and enable you to write more. But there's also a great creative freedom that comes with self-publishing. It's also much faster. I mean, really, you finish a book, you get it through your editorial process and your production process, and you can have the book up, in a very short amount of time versus, a finished book. I mean, really, the fastest a publisher can get a print book out from the time it's in to the time it goes out is about 6 weeks, and that's with them, just going balls to the wall with a production schedule to get it done. So it's very different process for both, and I enjoy doing both. I don't think that I could do 100% of one or 100% of the other and still feel the same comfort level that I feel right now. Definitely being hybrid has been a wonderful uh, publication path for me, and I plan to continue doing that, in to the immediate future and beyond. Another from like Spellbound, my familiars. I love those guys. Really, I was so excited to go back and visit with them again. Max and Victoria, of course, I started them way back in 2006, I believe, is when I first started writing one of their stories. Will I be writing another round? I don't have plans to do so at this time. My plate is pretty full. I have the next two Crossfire books. I have the Renegade Angels book. I have the two Blacklist books. And at some point, I would like to write another historical. So I've got a lot going on. So at this time, I'm trying not to add anything else to my plate. But that doesn't mean I never will. It's just that it's not in my immediate future. Well, and I'm going to be cagey with that because I can't say that it's being written in Gideon's point of view. And you probably wondering, well, you can't give us a release date, you can't tell us that. It's because as the book has the process of writing it, it weaves in and out between both characters, and as I pull it all together, where that goes is really still yet to be determined. Um, but Gideon is still, he's opening up to me more than he ever has, and I appreciate that, of course. It was very hard for me in the first two books because the only time he let me see him at all was through Ava's eyes, and I couldn't get into his head at all. I tried. I initially started trying to write there too in the shifting multi third person point of view, which is what you see in some of my other novels, where we go back and forth between the two, and he just would not do it. But he's opened up a lot more. I've been able to write a couple scenes that I've made available already on the website from his point of view. And part of that is the surprise. You're waiting a long time to get the book to come out, and I don't want to reveal too much before it comes. So that's why I'm being a bit cagey about that. But when it releases, you'll be able to see whose point of view it's in, and hopefully you will enjoy it. Well, and the C word. I saw somebody say that once, and it caused me to go back and actually look at the books to see because she had sent me an email where this particular reader had said it was in there dozens of times, and I found it very jarring. So I went back and I looked, and this was a few months ago, so I could be my memory could be off a little bit, but if I remember correctly, the first book had maybe about 7 references to it, of the 7 uses of the C word in it. The second book, I can't remember if it was a little bit more, a little bit less. Entwined with You had 2 or 3. It's not a lot, but in Gideon's perspective, sex is still something that's very dirty. It's very primal. It's sex to him comes from the inside in a very powerful and as I said, primal way. And he's just not somebody who uses language that's any softer than that. For him, it's very visceral. So I mean, it's really not my choice. It's only in his perspective, and it's yeah. Of course, we've never been in his head, so it only ever comes out in his dialogue. It's certainly not a way that Ava thinks and or uses in her own dialogue. So that's the only time you see it, and it's just his personality. It's just the way when he says dialogue to me, that's the way it comes out. I happen to find it very sexy, but I understand that for some people, It's a unusual word to hear often, but it really is not often in the books. If you do a search on a Kindle or a Nook, you'll see that there's very little mention of it in any of the three novels. Well, I've had the cover for Captivated by You for a few months now. We haven't put it out yet because we feel that it should go out at the same time that the release date does. I am really looking forward to sharing the cover with you guys. I think it's beautiful. We had with Verity was a cover that came, pretty quickly when the publisher sent it to me. There was a few, I'd say, 4 or 5 different versions of the cover before that we came with the one that you guys have seen. Reflect in You took a few more. Entwine with You was a very difficult cover to come up with. It took months and many tries, before we got where we were at. With Captivated by You, it was one shot. I mean, they sent me a cover and I said, that's it. And we had it. And it was just there. It was just perfect. So I'm dying to share it with you. I really am. I'm cannot wait till we get to the point where we're sharing the cover and the release date and so on. But we didn't want to piecemeal it out to you. We didn't want to give you a cover and then the book is not out in the next month or two, and it's like, well, now we've had the cover, but it's been a few months and nothing's happened. So we want to give it all to you in one shot. It's the same thing with the the series. You're not getting a whole lot of information about what's going on with the television series because we don't want to piecemeal information to you. We want to give you, everything at once. So you may wait a while, and it may seem like you're waiting longer for information, but when you do get it, it's all going to come at once, and you're not going to have to wait for more. So it's lovely, and I hope you guys love it as much as I do.
Excellent. So we're almost halfway through now. Want to let everyone know we're trying to get as many questions in as we can, which you can see Sylvia's answering them very quickly and getting through as many as we can because I know a lot of you have a lot of questions for her. We do have someone who wants to come on screen, Sylvia, and ask you a question, and her name is Maggie. So I will bring her up now, and hopefully we'll be able to see her. Let's see here.
Hi. Hello.
Do I
Hi.
see your name?
Yeah. Can you?
Hey!
There she is.
Hi. So I'm a huge fan of your work. I think that you write incredible books. And so while we wait on your next installment of the Crossfire series, do you have any suggestions for us as readers? Any books that you love currently?
Well, I mean, it depends on what genres it is that you like to read. I always recommend Nalini Singh's Guild Hunter series, but that's paranormal. So for those who like paranormals, I strongly recommend it. J.D. Robb's In Depth series is, of course, which maybe some people don't know. There's 45 books, I think, in that series so far, and that is the series that Ava reads when she's in Reflected in You at the beach, and that's where she came up with the nickname Ace. So for readers who want to find out a little bit more about where that came from, the In-Depth series is a great way to go. It starts with Naked in Depth. Again, that's by J.D. Robb. I love Patricia Briggs. Again, that's paranormal, but I really love her work. Shelby Reed writes contemporary romance, and I love her books. She has written my most favorite romance novel of all time, which is called The Fifth Favor, and that is available right now everywhere you can go and buy books. There it is. So I strongly recommend that. I also love authors Laura Lee, Lauren Dane, J.C. Burton. So I can actually post a list on Facebook later of all my favorite authors
Please
and
do,
books.
definitely. That would be very,
Sure.
very cool to get some more books in while we wait for your next installments, which I'm crazy excited for. So, well, thank you very
Oh,
much.
thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much. And you
Maggie.
have a beautiful, is that wallpaper? It's gorgeous. I love it.
Yeah, it's my bedroom.
It's
It's just
beautiful.
my bed.
I love it.
Thank you. I just redid it, so it's brand new.
Well, thank you very much, Maggie,
It
for
looks
your question, and have
Thank
a
you.
great night. I will drop Maggie down here. So if you would also like to ask a question, Sylvia, on camera right here, you will click the camera button. That's under here. Click that camera button and then we will bring you up as long as your connection is stable enough. So I'm going to keep firing off some questions to you here. Sylvia, here's the next one.
No, no, there's no way to imagine that anything as a writer, especially as a genre fiction writer, that anything you write become a huge success. You just can't imagine that. It's certainly not on the level of Crossfire. It would be a really unrealistic expectation. I tried to stay grounded in what I hoped to achieve in my career, and it was never anything like this. But on top of that, when I released Fair to You, I wasn't even sure that it would find an audience because I thought that it was possibly a little too dark. Gideon's got his atypical parasomnia, of course, and they're both childhood sexual abuse victims. And I didn't know if there was going to be an audience for a story that had such dark overtones. But on the other hand, I could not tell it. It was so important to me, and I loved writing it. I still love writing the series. I'm going to be heartbroken when I'm done. But yeah, I mean, not only did I not expect it to be popular, I didn't know that it was going to be widely read at all. I mean, if I could get even 10 people to read it, I thought I was going to be doing good. Yes, the pictures and stuff. Yes, I'll do that for Captivated by You. We're not going to have as much time. Obviously, with Entwine with You, we had a long length of time where I was able to do those sorts of teasers and so on, and then of course the date got moved back, and so we had even more time. It's not going to be that way with Captivated. Once the release date is announced, we're talking just a matter of weeks, and the book's going to be on shelves. So I'm not going to have a whole lot of lead in, and I've been trying very hard not to post too many things that might be spoilers. But I would love to do the snapshots again. The thing with doing the snapshots the first time around was a lot of people would go to the snapshot page and then they would be expecting to see an excerpt or a snippet, and then they'd get very confused because they couldn't find the snippet or the excerpt, and they thought there was something wrong with their computer where they couldn't read it. So I will have to come up with a better way to explain what they are for those who come to the site and see them. But I had fun putting those together, so I'd love to do it again. If you guys like to see them, I'm happy to do it. Ah, please. The Crossfire series. Wow. I think it's probably the one where Gideon says that he must have wished so hard and so often for Ava that she had no choice but to come true. I think that pretty much summarizes his feelings for her and their relationship in a nutshell.
Okay, so I'm back again. I'm going to bring up another on-screen question for you, Sylvia, and I will bring her up
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
Give it a couple of seconds to connect. Are you there? There you go. You have a question for Sylvia? Oh, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? Oh, looks like maybe
Right.
she's having some of
I
those
can
flash
hear, but
problems
I
that
can't
I
hear
have
anything.
before. Um, Here, I'll ask you her question because I do have it here. She says many people like to write and would love to become published authors, but some think it's really hard. Do you have any advice for these people?
It is hard, but as with any sort of craft, there's a level of difficulty to it. So I mean, there's that, and with writing, it's a very creative process. It's which makes it very personal. I mean, what you're creating is a one of a kind work of art. Whether it's good or bad. I have some manuscripts that will never see the light of day, and there's probably a really good reason for that. Unless I go back and really work on them because they were written maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, and I've evolved and have to change and grow. So it is a difficult process. It can be emotionally hard because it's something that you came up with and created and is very personal to you, and you're asking for critiques on it. When you submit it to an editor or publisher, of course, they're going to come back with their thoughts, and if they don't pick it up, the question is why wasn't it good enough? Because of course, to you, it's the best that they can possibly be. So the best advice I can give you is to be as confident in your own abilities as you can, to have faith in yourself, because if you have that rock solid belief that one, you have talent, and two, that you'll get there, it will happen for you. I firmly believe that. But you have to have that confidence, that steel inside you that says, I can keep doing this and I will keep doing it, and eventually I will get where I want to go. So good
Excellent.
luck to you. I mean, I do wish you all the best.
Excellent advice. And sorry we couldn't hear you, but thank you for your question. Anyone else wants to ask a question on camera, push the camera button, and I will continue to give you questions, Sylvia. I know another popular one is when will the next Renegade Angels book be out?
Well, I'm working on, of course, wrapping up the Crossfire series, and so that the publication schedule for that is not set yet, just as the next two Crossfire books aren't set yet. But it was that book is already well along in the writing process. It is not something that I have to start from scratch. So hopefully, ideally it would be this year. But as with the next two Crossfire books, I don't have an actual date to give you. And if I did, it would be up for pre-order. So, but I understand that there's been quite a lag time between the second book and the third book, and I would like to close that up as soon as possible.
Excellent. And we have about 20 minutes left, so I'm going to keep pulling some of your questions for Sylvia, and I will put some of those up here and I will drop down.
Well, the research for the Crossfire series actually began almost a year before I started writing the book. And that was, it started with reading a lot of books on, kind of books written by therapists as they discussed how women can heal from childhood sexual abuse and how men can heal from childhood sexual abuse, because of course it's very different based on your gender. And then from there, it was in talking to therapists who were willing to talk to me about some of the case studies and people that they've worked with and their experience. And then from there, asking if they would pass on my request to talk to some of their patients privately, and of course, not to use their stories in any particular way, but just to kind of get a sense of the hurdles that they faced emotionally and everything. It was about a year, and I'm still constantly looking for more information and trying to talk to more people, because as Ava and Gideon grow and their relationship grows, and as they move forward in the healing process, they're at a different stage, and then I need to research that stage as I get to it. It's been enlightening and heartbreaking, and very much a process of writing the books. But I'm glad that I've done it. I'm glad I've written the story, because it's definitely altered my view of a lot of things. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for those who have dealt with such a tragic beginning. There are 5 books in the Crossfire series. So yes, there are 4 books and then one more. Let me make the question a little longer. Yes, yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but definitely, I think Scarlett Johansson embodies Ava, and yeah, and that's one of the things, in talking to the producers when we had talked about, as far as gender and ethnicity and the overall physical appearance of the actors versus what you've read in the books, is very important in making that translation, and they absolutely agree with that. What did I edit out of Entwined with You? Honestly, when I submitted the Entwined with You to my editor, I had edited out 3 to 4 sex scenes in the first, I don't know, say first 250 pages of the novel. Um, I had edited out about 3 or 4 of them, and I submitted it to the editor with those sections highlighted and said, these scenes are ones that I'm thinking about removing from the book, and just so you know, as you go through edits, that I'm still debating whether I'm going to keep them in or not. and both my editor and my agent put some pretty strong arguments for why those scenes needed to be there and what they were conveying to the reader, and they convinced me to keep those in the book. So those were the only things that I were contemplating removing, and they stayed. So actually, really the way I had, if the edits had gone the way that I had suggested that it would go in that initial turn in, the very first sex scene in the novel would have been in the nightclub. But as you can see, there's a bit more than that prior to that point. Yes, I relate to Ava in a lot of ways, and in some ways she's completely foreign to me, and I try to understand her. There are times when I just want to shake her and go, "Oh my God, I would so not do that. I don't know what you're doing." But she's not me, so I just follow along with her as a friend, and try to silently offer advice for what she should do, and she doesn't, of course, always take it because she's a very different person. But I relate to her in a lot of ways. I relate to her desire to be independent, her desire to work as hard as she can at her job, and to rise up um, her chosen field, and to be with a man who is both powerful enough to support her emotionally, and also strong enough to let her stand on her own 2 feet when she needs to. How will I celebrate the release of Captivated by You? Well, I'll do another day after dark for sure, um, and I'll look forward to planning that. We've been talking about that actually just over the last couple of days, as I've recently returned to Manhattan after being away for the holidays at home. So we sat down. We were talking about the next day after dark and how that'll go, and I'm excited to announce information about that. But probably the biggest celebration will happen just right through social media on Twitter and Facebook, and chatting with everybody about it, and hopefully hopefully I don't have anybody who feels as if they were disappointed in any way, but fingers crossed. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. All the time I shock myself, and I embarrass myself too. Sometimes I'll go back and read things and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I wrote that. That was pretty crazy." But it's not me, and it's the characters, and there have been a couple times where I maybe toned it down just a little bit because I had shocked myself for what I wrote, but. It's part of the fun for me. I mean, just like Carrie shocked me with his pregnancy announcement, some of the things they do I find quite shocking, and it's as entertaining for me as the writer as hopefully it is for you as the reader. My favorite scenes, those are the ones where they're talking to each other, and not just Gideon and Ava, but with all of my characters, the ones where they actually sit down. But typically, it's after they've experienced some sort of road bump and they have to get past it. And those discussions that they have afterward, those really brutally honest discussions where, they explain why they had a particular reaction to something, or why they went, chose made the decision that they did, is really for me the best and most powerful scenes for me, right? Let me see. I gotta make that question a little longer. Yes, you'll definitely. I mean, there's some things that the first question there about will I cause trouble, that's a spoiler question, so I really can't answer that. I don't answer spoilers. But will we get to know exactly what's going on with their relationship? Yes. As we move forward into Gideon's story with his family, what we're covering is the estrangement that he has with almost everybody except for Ireland, and how they're going to either fix the relationship that they have as a family or just let it go. Right now, as much as Gideon likes to act as if it's not relevant, and he's over it, and it doesn't matter, of course, there's unfinished business there. And until that's done, he's going to be harboring that resentment. And so, the question that they face is, can we salvage, our family relationship? And if we can't, can we find peace with it and let it go? So we're definitely going to see a lot of his interactions with everyone, with Christopher Senior and Junior, with his mother Elizabeth in Ireland, and how that is able to help him move forward with Ava in a very positive way. I mean, in order for them to have the family together, Dean has to know how to have a positive or at least non-resentful relationship with his family. Ah, yes, I've been fortunate enough to meet a few Gideons in my life. Not all of them were keepers. They might be keepers for somebody else, but sometimes intensity can be too intense. But I hope that everybody at some point in their life has a mad, passionate, wild, kind of sexual frenzied relationship with someone. I think it's one of the joys in life, whether you keep it for eternity or whether it's a short time fling or whatever. I mean, I hope that we all experience that crazy mad rush. Sapphire series. Well, it wasn't actually written as a series. In the Flesh was written as a standalone book. It was over and done with in one novel. And when the editor at the publishing house bought it, she wanted it to be turned into a trilogy. She felt that with the world and everything else that was going on, that it was just too much to introduce people to this whole new reality and then just finish off in one book. She felt that readers would want to go back and revisit it again. And so, the book was the ending of the novel was rewritten to end a little bit open ended with the expectation that there would be two more books that would follow along with that character. And had that been the case, that series, what became a series, would have been my first series that actually followed along with a couple over a long length of time. But the publisher then, that particular editor, who was my very first editor I worked with for many years, I loved her a great deal. She passed away, and the project was moved to a new editor, and it languished, and it's now, it's still up in the air whether the series will be continued or not, and that is a decision that will have to be made by the publisher, and then once it's made, that will open it up for me to either write that or to write something else. So I'm as unsure of where that's going as anybody else is, but all I can say is it was originally written to be one novel, and I wish that we had left it that way so that the one book would be out and it would be finished. Yes, yes, Megumi has a last name, and you'll see more about that. You'll see a little bit more about her as we move forward because Ava, of course, is a very social person, and Gideon is less so. Although he does have friends, and you're going to see a lot more of Gideon's friends because he does have a life that Ava is slowly being incorporated into. So she'll meet more of the people who he's spent his private time with in the past. But Ava's a very social girl, and she likes going out and spending time with other women and having a good time. So you'll see more of Megumi and learn more about her and what's going on with her as the next two books come out.
Hello, Sylvia. So I just want to jump in again and let everyone know it's almost time to wrap up. We have probably about 5 or 10 more minutes. So we're going to try to pull as many of these questions for you as we can in that time. So next question for you, Sylvia, is here.
Yes. Well, obviously we haven't heard the last of Corinne because there's some unfinished business there. But Gideon is addressing things head on. He feels as if he's in a different place in his life. He's a married man now, and he's committed to his wife, and building that relationship and strengthening it. So, any of these sort of secondary uh, people who are coming along and causing trouble or things that he deals with, and so until that happens, Corinne is kind of a loose thread. So we'll see her again, but really the moving forward, Gideon's focus is less on what's happening on the outside and more about what's happening on the inside of not just his relationship, but also his life and his personal relationships with other people. No, there will not be another book after Aftershock. Aftershock wraps up, Gianna and Jax's story. So once that comes out, that storyline will be over. So there will not be one that comes after that. I I've had people ask if her brothers are going to have stories, and I can't say that they won't. I never say never. I hadn't expected at the time that I wrote Max and Victoria's story back in 2006 and 2007 that I would be writing their story again in 2013. But it happens, sometimes it comes full circle and you do. So would I? I mean, if it comes to it, I would, yes. But again, my plate is really full right now. I'm trying to get the stories out that readers are expecting to see, and so I can't add anything really onto my plate at this point. As for Strip Down, yes, it will. And when I wrote All Revved Up, it was kind of like in the flesh, where it was just going to be the one story. And I wrote it, I was finished, and I was done. And then afterwards, I thought, I'd really like to see them, a little bit down the road. It was a huge revelation, of course, for Miguel to find out that he had a son, and not just a small boy, but a young man. And I want to revisit what the impact of that is, and whether he holds any resentment to Faith for what the length of time that they weren't together, and how therapy is working out for them, and of course how that mad passionate high school relationship they had, how that translates into adulthood with the parenthood and so on. I think that's fascinating. So it was after the fact, I'd say at least a year after I wrote All Revved Up, that I realized that I wanted to continue the story. And I got it up on my site and talked to readers about it, and that was my bad, because I didn't get it done as quickly as I wanted to. But I do intend to write the story and make it available, just as I have with All Revved Up. But I'm trying to write the books that are the most in demand as quickly as possible for readers, so that I don't get too many of the emails that say I'm waiting forever. I really don't want you to, but then I have to look at, well, how many readers are waiting forever for this book, and how many readers are waiting forever for this book, and then to write the books that have the largest amount of demand for them, so that I can try to satisfy the largest number of readers as possible. It's a crazy balancing act. So I really honestly am doing the best that I can, but it will be coming out, I promise, at some point. Gideon Cross. Well, Gideon means he who hacks down his enemies. A shorter form of that is warrior. But that name is a name that I had on a list of male character names that I wanted to use one day, and when I started writing Gideon, it was just perfect for him. That's very much who he is. You get in his way and he'll cut you down, and so it just it just worked perfect for him. And Cross, just it came to me. I wish I could say that I even picked it out. I mean, Gideon I did pick out deliberately. I looked at it and said, this is the character that gets that name. But Cross just came as part and parcel with him, and I love it. He picked it, I guess. I think it's very sexy too. Victor, I want him to. I really do. I feel bad that he's held the torch for Monica for so long, even though that I know that she has also held the torch for him in her own way, but she's managed to move on in ways that he hasn't. I would love to see him be happy. I would love to see him, in a relationship. I'd love to see him, be a full-time dad. I think he'd be wonderful at it. He's great with Ava. But I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a spoiler question, so I'm trying to I hate being cagey with that, but So far he's only got eyes for Monica, but maybe he'll see Ava and Gideon together and want something similar for himself. I hope so. Well, yeah, and the fear of failure. I mean, that goes back to what I had said about needing to have that core sense of confidence. You will face a lot of criticism, and it's just part of being a writer. It's when you put something out there for consumption, and you put a product out there and you ask people to pay for it, they have the right to come out and say how they feel about it, and what their opinion is. And sometimes it can get very personal, and I don't think that all the time they mean it to get personal. I think sometimes they just don't realize that what they said is actually an attack against the author who wrote it rather than the actual work that they're discussing. And then when you're at the point where you're submitting to publishers and agents, and they're sending it back and saying, I don't think this is going to work for me, or whatever. I mean, it's hard not to take that sort of thing personally. So you have to shut out as much of that noise as possible in whatever way that works best for you. Some writers are not accessible at all, and that means they're not participating in any communities, they're not participating in social media, at least not as their writer self. They may do it for personal reasons among friends and family, and that's how they insulate themselves in a way that allows them to function. And you may have to kind of pull back from being on other writers' loops and then discussing things with other writers, because you'll get a lot of oh, that's not selling right now, or there's too many of this and that. And that sort of advice is just it's not helpful, because if you write the right story and it hits the reader in the right way, and the reader being an editor or some other publishing professional, it doesn't matter if vampires aren't selling right now and it's a vampire story. They'll buy it. But you can get a lot of bad advice that way, and you can get a lot of advice that makes you second guess yourself, and you have to take whatever steps you need to protect yourself, to insulate yourself, and to find that confidence in your own talent to get by. And I wish you the best of luck. Um, Ireland and Gideon, yes, absolutely. They're definitely, Ireland is starting to build up some confidence. As far as her relationship with Gideon, she was a bit timid the first time that we saw her, because she felt that Gideon was very standoffish. And as we saw with him, he just didn't know what to do with her. He had no clue. What do I do with a teenage girl? And he's slowly starting to adapt and to make strides in that regard. And we're definitely going to see that relationship growing and strengthening as we move forward. It's been a lot of fun, writing the scenes with those two together. They definitely have a great chemistry between them, and you see a unique vulnerability with him that you don't see when he's with anyone else.
Excellent. So it's about that time to wrap up the chat. I know this hour has flown by for everyone. Now, there's one last kind of popular question, Sylvia, that I want to ask you, and this is about music. Do you listen to music when you're writing? And is there, especially a popular question here, are there any songs, or is there a song that reminds you of Ava and Gideon that would be like their song?
Ah, well, no, I don't. I don't write to music. I can't. I, for one, if it has lyrics in it, I find myself singing along with the lyrics, and that, of course, is I'm thinking about words other than the words I'm supposed to be putting on page, so I can't do that. I had a friend who recommended that I try listening to just music that has no lyrics to it, and just listen to music, period. And I tried that, and that doesn't work either. For me, when I'm writing, there's like a particular cadence and a rhythm to the sentence, to the paragraph, to the page, and I lose that cadence to the musical cadence, and then it just reads very jarringly to me afterwards. So no, I mean, I have to. Funny enough, I can listen to television. The television can be on in the background while I'm writing, and that's fine. But music, I can't do. As for a particular song for Gideon and Ava, I don't have one that I can give you off the top of my head, but there is a great Spotify list for the Crossfire series that has a lot of music that has been inspired. Readers find it and think that it very much reminds them of their reading experience. And if you go on my YouTube channel, there are playlists of videos of music that is mentioned inside the books, and that could kind of give you an idea of at least songs that went with particular scenes, if not an overall song that goes with a couple.
Excellent answer. So I think with that, that will wrap up our chat tonight. Now, this is just the first in a series of fan chats that Sylvia is going to do. So there'll be another one in February, and she will post details about that later as it comes up. So if you didn't get your question answered today, then join us again in February and submit it again, and we'll try to get to you then. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and thanks
Thank
Sylvia. It's
you.
good to have you.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Good night,
Great
everyone.
chatting with you. Good night.